Hey guys, well today we're going to go over another Fireline pack, and this is going to be from Coaxsher out of Washington. In front of you is the FS-1 Ranger, and it is set up for basically the extended version. If you've looked at these packs before, you know that you have a baseline harness system that is universal with all of their other packs. So you can go from their spotter to the Mojave, and then the Ranger is their larger extended version, but you can also break this one back down to just basically engine setup if you want. And we'll kind of go over that a little bit today. The overall capacity, we'll put links down below, is like 1,500 cubic inches for the actual Ranger, not including the red pack and things like that. On paper, it actually holds quite a bit, but it depends on how you have it set up. This is sort of a sustainment pouch on the outside if you want to add more things. I actually had this just with the water bladder for many of my engine ops, because it could hold my first aid kit, it could hold a sandwich, and maybe an apple or snacks that I brought out and broke down for my lunch that day. To give you an idea how easy it is to sort of switch modes and whatnot, this red pack up front is just held on by a bunch of clips. There's two side clips, it plops down, and then there's a lower clip underneath that I can just remove. And now this pack is off. Here's one criticism I have of the actual FS-1 Ranger setup, is you will see the side clips here actually run through the entire side of the pack and have kind of a pass-through feature to attach it back here to the frame. This pass-through webbing is difficult to use because there's no way to cinch the front of this now without that pack there. I did have it set up to where I took off basically these buckles and reversed it so that I could cinch it across, but without that red piece there's no way to actually cinch this down without getting kind of a little bit fancy with the buckle setup. But it is possible. It was definitely doable. I just had to undo these buckles and do a little reverse on here. Alright, sorry for the wind noise out here. This pack is just too big for the studio. Nice big pack. It's about, well, you'll see the measurements on the website. I would say it's 3 or 4 inches deep, and then it's just kind of a half moon shape at the top. There's an outside pocket where you can keep extra stuff. This was an extension for the waist belt. I didn't actually need this, but it's, if you're a bigger guy and you're beyond the standard weight waist belt, this is an extension. I actually did kind of like this when I first tried it because it gets the belt off the front and puts 2 belts on the side. But if you're too skinny, you won't have enough webbing to cinch that up. But it's actually very comfortable not to have a buckle in the center. But again, we didn't really use it that much. It just got carried in the pack because I did pass this pack around to multiple people. I thought maybe one of my guys would need it, but we didn't have anyone that big on the engine. So, reflective, made in the USA. It isn't made up in Washington. There's a look at the back. It's a little cleaner than the front, and the clips that are on that. And we're going to continue to basically break this down, and we can pull all the segments apart. The FS-1 Ranger is attached here on top, and then these side ones that were the pass-through buckles, and then underneath here are 2 clips. And now your extendment, basically your sustainment pouch, is down to the basic harness, fire shelter, water, and that's it. So essentially what I had done is just took the red pouch, we clipped the bottom, clipped it instead of to the front pack, you clip it actually to the harness here, and then these 2 side buckles fit right into the side. And so what I had was my shelter, my water, first aid, lunch, and that was about all I carried. For extended engine ops, it seemed to be more than enough. Even hiking around, some hose lay, things like that, where you're not going to need your sustainment pouch. This was how I ran the Coaxsher for most of the year last year. Alright, diving into just the actual Ranger module. Again, if you own one of the other packs, if you're an engine guy and you only have the spotter or the Mojave, and you need a larger pack, all you have to do is buy this. It will clip onto that same base frame that we'll go over in a second. But to just cover this, there are very big YKK zippers. It opens up very large, about halfway down the sides, flips open. Again, you can see I've got 4 2-liter bottles in here. So if you needed to hold quite a bit of equipment, you know, a Wooby, a couple MREs, things of that nature, it will definitely do that. On the inside, there's additional sort of organization by having 2 side mesh pockets on each side. It's just easier to keep things that are rolling around in there. I think toilet paper on one side and like a snack bar on the other. But there's additional mesh webbing in the door panel here for organization. And then an interesting thing is if you've got this on the back, this is the side that's going to be facing the harness. There's actually a sleeve here if you want to keep, you know, some paperwork, things like that, that you're not going to need access to all the time. It'll be there. It'll be a little bit more protected than the outside of the pack. And then the zipper that is on the back actually opens all the way up. So if you don't like the half moon style of the front, or if you just disconnect this from the harness, you can get it in through the back. I didn't really use that much. It is a neat feature, but I just didn't utilize it as much. I was getting it through the front. I'm gonna be totally honest, running engine all last year, most of the time I ran it without this pack. You'll see the bottom, quite a bit of drain holes, extra attachments. These are the 2 clips that will attach the harness. Lots of daisy chain across the top front. You can easily add all sorts of, you know, clips and things, attachment gear. More daisy chain on the back side of each bottle holder. And then bright yellow handle, so you can always find the grab handle. A couple gear loops here, and then you'll see there's a couple clips all over these bags that generally aren't used with your basic setup. So this top pouch can be turned into a Sawyer pouch. It can hold your wedges and things of that nature, saw tools, things of that, extra chain if you wanted it to. If you're a line EMT, you're running with your crew, you can have a separate medical pack on top. With that, you can actually remove, if you're going to do search and rescue, you can remove the fire shelter, and there's an entire med pack that goes on there. If there's one company that's making packs that's basically the most, you know, module setup, most transformer to whatever the day happens to be, it's going to be Coaxsher. You just have to deal with a few extra clips that maybe you aren't using. With that, on the side panels, called dump pouches, a lot of guys will carry the water, Gatorades, things on the outside here. You can see if you kind of have it tucked down, you've got this big flap that comes down. Make sure I'm on film here. Big flap that comes down that's attached by Velcro, and that'll keep it slimline if you aren't using that pocket or you need a little extra security. But that Velcro is covered if you're not going to be using that. If you're going to be using this as a side dump pouch, if you're reaching back and throwing a bunch of you know, water hardware in there, your Ys, your gates, all sorts of things as you're picking them up off the line, you can easily toss them back there. You will see the secondary pocket that's in here, that if you can actually fold that up, and it's definitely an easier, I guess, more protected way if you're carrying stuff back there to keep tree debris and things of that nature out. That makes this inside sleeve pocket that runs inside all the way to the bottom for larger items, either, again, saw wedges, fusees, things of that nature. Then this pocket becomes its cover. So you're basically covered whether you're using that internal sleeve. Water bottle has its own pocket, or you can cinch it all down and get it slicked up if you're not using those at all. Alright, so you're seeing it as basically I ran it. I ran the red bag off the harness, like I said. A couple clips, and this thing is off. So if you don't need it, if you're actually just, you know, close to the truck, all you need is some water, your fire shelter, and you got your tool, your hose, or whatever else you're running. That's basically it. This bladder will fit just about any 3-liter. I was not able to get my 6-liter in there very comfortably, obviously because it's twice the size. But you've got dual sleeves in here to run the hydration hoses out. You've got a clip to hang it from, and then even this is removable. You can easily unclip that all the way down and run a different setup if you want. I like the fact that it's got its own protection in here. It's outside the bag, so you're not having to deal with the water bladder while you're getting in and out of your bag, which is extremely nice. Again, you can kind of see the harness back here, which I can unclip this so you get a better idea. You've got nice frame sheet, aluminum stays in here, ton of different clips for multiple setups, as I was just talking about. And then the actual fire shelter at the bottom here has a couple different things. It has a release system. If you pull these black tabs while you're wearing it, which I'll demonstrate a little bit later, your fire shelter is lowered. It lowers the center of gravity, so if you're actually digging line, you want to get that thing away from you, offset the weight a little bit. But it also creates a little bit of shelf. You can either toss a jacket back there, you can toss, actual handle for a tool, and then cinch it back up, and it'll carry a little bit easier. If you're doing hose lays, you can attach it and kind of make it as a little platform to hold a bunch of extra gear. And because this harness system is so robust, it is, I will say, probably the least padded, but because of the way it fits and the way it carries weight, you don't need all that padding. I mentioned in the Wolf Gear review that it had so much padding, but there was no support to it, and that is not the case with the Coaxshers. On the side of the hip belts here, why don't we just remove everything here. A couple clips, and your fire shelter is gone, and we'll go over that in just a second. Your bladder is attached in with the aluminum stays, but that is easy to just pull out. It's not very difficult at all. I'll leave that in there for now. More daisy chain webbing all the way across the back for attaching different things. Now we'll get into the way that it cinches up in a second. This I left on for the sake of the review. I'll probably be removing it this year. This is so you can add basically any sort of belt attachment. If you want to run your fire shelter on the side, this is where you would attach this instead of like the Mystery Ranch that runs sort of a MOLLE style webbing or like a dual webbing. They just run a piece of webbing on here that's going to mimic your belt size. So if you want to run your multi-tools or anything like that, it's going to fit on there. However, when I go to cinch this bag, I was grabbing this extra webbing quite often. And so when I go to cinch it up, I was grabbing the wrong thing because this kind of overlaps with the actual belt. So I'll probably remove that or cut it, cinch it off. It's not a big deal. I left it on for the sake of the review. All right, now if you can see, the back frame sheet here is attached by a diagonal piece of webbing that is fed through this metal here. Comes all the way out to the buckle hardware and back to where you actually pull to cinch it. I much prefer this design. I mentioned that in the Mystery Ranch review. They are redesigning a lot of their packs. Hopefully it'll make it to the fire pack where you're pulling it like a standard commercial backpack, where you're pulling away from you to tighten it instead of trying to cinch around you. It is a much better system, but Coaxsher does it one more than that. Because you're just cinching your belt, you're also now cinching this webbing, and it's bringing the entire frame sheet and your backpack closer to your back. So as you tighten your belt, you're tightening the whole thing to your torso, which is, it's extremely comfortable, but it's also one of the best things you can do to hold the load of your pack. One of the things I was saying, this doesn't have the biggest padding in the world, but because the way the pack carries the weight and the way it feels on you, you don't need it. Because it has the support of the aluminum stays and the frame sheet and the design of the webbing, it really is extremely comfortable no matter what. Now, although I'm not a huge fan of the separated yoke harness, I much actually prefer the Mystery Ranch style of the Furtura yoke, but I have to say I was extremely pleased with the way this thing handled. Because there's so much support from the actual waist and frame sheet, you don't even necessarily need the yoke. It's just there for added, protection. Where on all the other styles of these separated yokes, that yoke is holding a lot of the weight because the rest of the frame sheet doesn't have enough support, and so it's pulling on your shoulders quite a bit. And the way they designed it, this doesn't do that at all. So I much prefer the way the Coaxsher did it. I would say it's the only way of doing it. Alright, now covering the actual yoke piece, plenty of webbing for attaching carabiners, for gloves, all sorts of things, radio attachments. You can fit through here if you're going to put your radio up here. There is a chest strap. It has the bungee, very reminiscent of a lot of recreational packs. A couple little rings down here for attaching more stuff, and then the standard sort of webbing to cinch it down. You'll see I do have a couple extra pieces up here. They fit into the other, not really D-rings, but that's what I'm going to call them here. And this attaches my radio pouch. We'll do a separate review of that. but that way you don't have to have multiple straps. You basically attach this. There's another webbing piece down here that attaches at the bottom, and you've got your entire radio bib hooked to the pack and not dealing with separate straps. Alright, now to touch on the fire shelter, it is included in the entire setup. It's very well made. It does have its multiple clips. You can actually Alice clip it to anything. Get more clips on the bottom. It's just set up to be extremely versatile, and with that system that I'll show you here in a little bit. The nice little feature that they do fit the new fire shelters quite well. And the additional glove pocket, I didn't use. My gloves are actually quite bulky and difficult to get in here, but they're designed to have a spare set of gloves so that if only you have your shelter, you've got your gloves with you. It's a great idea. I just didn't take advantage of that the way I had mine set up. But the idea is you have to have gloves and your shelter. If you have your shelter and you're actually getting burned over, you wouldn't be able to hold the shelter down. So you have to have your protection stuff with you. You should have it with you anyway, but in the training, a lot of times they'll tell you to ditch the pack and take your shelter and your tool. And if you don't have your gloves, if your gloves are stuck to your pack and you ditched it, then you're screwed. But this way you have an extra set. So it's a good idea. Lots of reflectivity and really, really cool designs. Hey guys, again, that was a quick look at the FS-1 Ranger. I had this thing for an entire year before doing this review. I did get put on an engine, which allowed me to utilize the customizing ability of this pack and to vary the setup quite a bit. You can load up the sustainment pouch with a lot of things and leave that on the truck, as we talked about. It is a really neat pack. Again, if you're going to be using this on a hand crew, even I probably wouldn't have needed this red pouch on the outside, which is why I would have liked to seen an accessory strap that continued that, because that's how this main pack attaches, is through these clips, and you kind of need that to cinch everything down and to keep it attached. Other than that, it worked flawlessly. It is made up in Washington in the USA. Didn't have a single issue with sewing or anything else. It is a very cool pack. I think if you're not sure where you're going to be put in the season, this is a great way to go to customize everything. If you know you're going to be in a hand crew or something like that, you know, I may stay away from that, simply because when this thing is fully loaded, because it attaches, it's a little bit loose. Not really unstable, but you can feel it moving around back there when this thing is fully loaded, the way it's set up. So if you're going to be just a gnarly hand crew guy or hot shot crew, it's probably not for you. But if you're a Sawyer line MT and you need that customizing pouches to carry specific gear, they have some of the best lineups, as I mentioned, for accessory gear for wildland fire that I've ever seen. So hopefully that answers your question. We'll insert some photos and things, of course, as I used them all last year. And this has been Beast with Coaxsher's FS-1 Ranger. Thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah, that's the firm. We're loading up right now.